Yesterday, the Toronto Raptors on Twitter confirmed that they had signed former 4th overall pick Josh Jackson for their training camp roster. So in today's video, we're going to break down if this is a good signing by the Raptors and what sort of chance the player has to actually make that final roster for the regular season. Let's get into it. What's going on, NBA and Raptors fans? It's Jacob here back with AmateurHour Sports for another Toronto Raptors YouTube video. On this channel, I bring you the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news. I'm doing it all throughout the offseason, so if you like what you see from today's video, then make sure you are subscribed to the channel to keep up to date with all that great content, and you can help me on my road to 12,000 subscribers. Also, be sure to like the video if you find yourself enjoying along the way. Let's get to 250 likes on today's video if we can. But the video in question is all about Josh Jackson. Who is Josh Jackson? Who is this man the Raptors have signed, what he can bring to the team, and why they decided to bring him into their team. We're also going to look at if this is a good pickup by the Raptors, because Josh Jackson here, not a uncommon thing for the Raptors to do, take a flyer on somebody who was drafted very high previously, but has just ultimately not really lived up to that potential so far in the NBA. Josh Jackson was drafted 4th overall in the 2017 NBA entry draft. It feels like so long ago that this guy went 4th overall after really dominating in his season with Kansas, ultimately getting that 4th overall pick where he went to the Phoenix Suns, who admittedly aren't the best at drafting players, aren't the best at scouting players, and also typically aren't the best at developing players. Maybe in the last couple of seasons, things have changed a little bit in terms of development, but Phoenix, I mean, their organization has even said that they don't even care about the draft, so not a great situation for Josh Jackson, I guess, to be in, but you know, you could also look at his individual performances, which weren't that great there, and he's bounced around the league since his time in Phoenix. He's been at Memphis, he's been at Detroit recently, he's been at Sacramento, and just not a lot to really be a fan of from Josh Jackson from an NBA standpoint. But we can go back, those 5 years, go back to those college days, and we can talk about Josh Jackson as somebody who was like a very, very good slasher, somebody who was super athletic, had decent size, was a good defender in college as well, and could also hit the 3-ball. But since he has played in the NBA, his efficiency from the field, I mean, his 2-point percentages are just not good. He does not finish at the rim well. His athleticism isn't really carrying over and helping him succeed in the NBA. He doesn't have a serviceable 3-point shot. It's not anything that defenders have to worry about with guarding him. And honestly, his offensive and defensive ratings in the NBA season by season are consistently, like, I don't have a better word than pathetic. Like, it's been pretty pathetic from the player. He just doesn't really bring much to the table from an NBA standpoint, but the Raptors decided to bring him in. I mean, they're not guaranteeing any money here. It's a very small partial guarantee here. This is the 20th guy that's going to make up the training camp roster. The likeliness when signing a guy who's going to be that 20th player won't make your final roster. This is just, I guess, something to fill in, but maybe there could have been other players to fill in instead. This is something that we discussed in the previous video, talking about Mykhailiuk getting waived, and I mentioned some players that we'll go through in this video as well that I thought were deserving of a spot there and maybe had a threat of actually making the final roster. But the big point that I had when the Raptors waived Mykhailiuk was that there was going to be somebody they were looking at to replace him immediately. Like, they probably already had somebody lined up. The fact that it was so quick, the turnaround from waiving Mykhailiuk to actually signing Josh Jackson, makes me think that this was kind of something that was in the works for at least a week or two here to bring him in. But the Raptors, they see a forward here who went 4th overall for a reason. There were a lot of teams who would have drafted him in that area. He's been at some teams that maybe don't have the best developmental processes, as we talked about with the Suns. Memphis, maybe at that time, weren't the best at developing. Same with Detroit. Definitely not a great system for developing in. Same with Sacramento, probably the worst system to develop in, albeit for a very small sample size last season with this player. And they see a forward who's 6'8", has a decent wingspan, and the Raptors are well known at this point for developing players. Maybe there's something inside there that the Raptors can unlock. Maybe there's something that Masai Ujiri sees, Bobby Webster, whoever in the front office. Maybe they see something that the coaching staff can potentially unlock here. Give him an opportunity in the training camp to prove his worth as an NBA player. And maybe, just maybe, he makes that final roster spot. Also with his deal, which I think is interesting here, I was kind of looking at it like, this is weird but like maybe this is something they're looking at for the G League as well. I know it's not an Exhibit 10 guy, but Josh Jackson technically would be eligible for the G League. The Raptors 905 team could actually claim him there, and he could be playing with the G League team. I'm not sure if that was something that was discussed in these meetings, because from an NBA standpoint, signing Josh Jackson, let's get into the opinion stuff here. I'm not a fan of this signing. When I saw it, I was just kind of like, Josh Jackson, I mean, I understand this is a former 4th overall pick, but like I was saying, he has really not shown anything from a consistent NBA level. Sure, he's averaged above 10 points per game in a few seasons, but like I was saying, the offensive ratings have been so bad, like under 90 a lot of the time, which is just terrible. Offensive rating ranks your points output projected over 100 possessions. Usually, like, I mean, you really want to be over 100 there. He's under 90, and your defensive rating does the opposite. I mean, it tracks how many points that you seem to allow over 100 possessions. The great players can be under 100, even lower than that. The bad players, like Josh Jackson, can be above 110, and that's just not something that you really want to see. You also want to see a better offensive rating than defensive rating, but there is such a wide discrepancy in those margins. I mean, that's not the be-all, end-all of stats. That's just one I was looking at there. But having seen stuff from Josh Jackson in his relatively short NBA career so far, there were better options available. I discussed a couple of them in the previous video. We're going to go through them again. Jarrett Culver, a former 6th overall pick that the Raptors have had. You know, Raptors players have been playing with, at these Rico Hines runs. Scotty Barnes apparently is a fan of him. He was confused, like he thought he had already signed, and it seemed like Simi Hailu getting waived meant like, okay, doors wide open for somebody like Jarrett Culver. And, you know, he's not a forward, I guess, that the Raptors, you know, can work with the wingspan and that sort of thing. And I understand Josh Jackson may have that, but from a talent standpoint, I feel like Jarrett Culver offers a little bit more. I mean, it's hard to really compare these two guys who have been like, they've just been busts in the NBA so far. But another guy I was looking at, and the guy I wanted the Raptors to sign, was Jalen Harris, who got reinstated into the league. The Raptors made him an RFA when he was reinstated. He's kept his touches up in Italy, kept his touches up in the Canadian Elite Basketball League with the Scarborough Shooting Stars, and I thought he deserved another opportunity in the NBA, but the Raptors thought to go with Josh Jackson here. Another avenue I would have pursued instead was just bringing a guy on an Exhibit 10 contract to help out with the Raptors 905. Maybe that's somebody that they can develop. Maybe this is somebody in Josh Jackson that they also feel can just be a 905 player, though I wouldn't necessarily be surprised, but I think it's more likely than not that if the Raptors, or more so when the Raptors cut him from the regular season roster, he won't make the final 17, which is my assumption here. At that point, I don't think he's going to go with the G League team. I think it's certainly a possibility, but like, this guy has bounced around Phoenix when they were really bad, Memphis when they were really bad, Detroit, who are really bad, and Sacramento, who were really bad this year. Like, he's played poorly for 4 different poverty franchises. Memphis, Phoenix, a lot better. Not at the time when he was entering the league. So there's no indication to me here that there is something that the Raptors can unlock. Like, I just feel like this is a player who ultimately did not develop his skill set to match the NBA level. Sure, you know, athleticism takes you a long way in college, but you need to fine-tune some other aspects of your game to get to the NBA level. I just haven't seen anything that would suggest Josh Jackson will ever do that with his NBA career, and I would have preferred the Raptors took a stab on somebody else like Culver, like Harris, or like an Exhibit 10 guy. But as it comes to Josh Jackson, the person, the individual, I kind of sound like a hater here, but because, I mean, I just don't rate him as a player whatsoever, but I want him to succeed. Anybody who puts on a Raptors jersey, I want them to succeed because I want this team to be better. And if Josh Jackson is playing well, helping this team be better, then I'll eat my words. I'll absolutely eat my words 100%. Like, I don't mind being wrong about thinking somebody isn't going to be great for the Raptors. Like, I want to be wrong. I want these players to prove me wrong. I want these players to go out and succeed. I'm sure the Raptors are going to provide Josh Jackson with all of the tools and opportunities to succeed in training camp and in preseason to possibly get that final roster spot for this upcoming season. But there is certainly going to be a lot of people vying for those positions. You know, I think Gabe Brown, Exhibit 10 guy, won't make the roster. He'll go to the G League with 905. That's the plan. DJ Wilson, I don't imagine, will make the roster. So Josh Jackson's got to beat Hernangomez, who is on also $2.3 million guaranteed for this season. That contract I'm not a fan of, but it is what it is. That's the contract that you also have to beat. And in the tiebreaker, Juancho's going to get in because he's on that guaranteed money. He's got to beat out potentially Dalano Banton. He's got to beat out potentially Justin Champagnie. Do I see that happening? Not in the slightest. I guess I don't really see, anybody else coming in and making their roster spot. I thought there could have been a bit more competition. Maybe this is somebody they're bringing in just because, like, he can play a specific role for training camp. I'm not so sure. But overall, this signing kind of confused me. I personally would have looked elsewhere. I personally would have looked for some other players. I just feel like this is a bust who is not going to find that potential that maybe was there when he was drafted 4th overall in 2017. That is a long time ago now. He is not that player. He is still not that player. I mean, that wouldn't have changed if we signed Jarrett Culver, but I don't know. I didn't look at this one and get overly excited. Like I said earlier, I looked at this one and went like, Josh Jackson, really? But hey, we'll see what happens in camp. All we can do is watch how everything plays out. Maybe Josh Jackson comes in and lights up training camp. I don't know. I don't see it. But my prediction is Jackson really does not get any playtime in preseason. He ultimately gets cut along with DJ Wilson and Gabe Brown. And if he did not do well with Sacramento or Detroit or Memphis when they're bad or Phoenix when they're bad, I want everybody to get their bread, get in the NBA, get a contract. But I seriously struggle to see this guy getting an NBA contract if he does not make the Raptors final roster, which I don't think he will. It's a bit of a shame here, but it's a business. There's plenty of other better players currently on that training camp roster for the Raptors. So what do you guys make of the Raptors signing Josh Jackson for the training camp? I got to tell you, from what I saw on Twitter, people weren't really thrilled. And from what I saw from the AmateurHour Sports Discord, link in the description, people were not thrilled with this one. But hey, whatever your thoughts and opinions are, let us know in the comments down below, because that is it for me for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please, if you did enjoy, be sure to drop a like on the video. It goes a long way to supporting the channel, helps spread the word of the channel, because YouTube will recommend this video to more people who have similar interests to you if you do like, because they'll be like, hey, this guy likes the video. Maybe the other people who also like Raptors and NBA stuff will also enjoy this video. Help spread the word of the video, help spread the word of the channel. It only takes you a second to do. And if you are new, or if you have just not done so already, be sure to subscribe to AmateurHour Sports. In return, you're getting the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news, and you can help me on my road to 12,000 subscribers. Check out our live streams on Twitch every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time for NBA discussion and a little bit of video game content. And we're bringing the watch parties to Twitch and also bringing them back to YouTube when the season begins for the Raptors. Time to get excited. I'll see you again next time for another video.